The following program is a Creative Magic Network production.
You're listening to the Frederick Bai Show, where sky is the limit, space is the place. Here's your host, Frederick Bai.
Alrighty, hello everybody. Welcome. Come on in, sit down, relax, put your earbuds on. Maybe you're doing dishes, maybe you're running, maybe you're on the treadmill, maybe you're doing whatever, maybe you're driving. I just want to welcome you to the Frederick Bai Show, and this radio podcast is about unleashing your creativity. We talk to experts who step into the unknown. It is an inspirational, magical, intuitive radio podcast as we chat with charismatic enigmas. That's right. Musicians, singers, authors, radio hosts, business people, everything in between. I am Frederick Bai, the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour, funky like a monkey. Hey, I sting like a bee, produce sweet honey, and I am pretty. I am your favorite French Canucker. And today we have a very important guest, a very important subject. We're going to talk about a subject in alignment with this show. Oh yeah. The title of the book is, can you believe this? The Spark. I love it. The Spark, the Flame, and the Torch. Inspire yourself, inspire others, inspire the world. And the author is Lance Secretan. How are you today, Lance?
Great. Thank you, Frederick.
Awesome. We're glad to have you here and welcome to the show. Okay. You're all about inspiration. You're all about spirituality. You're all about, I would say, getting to the next level in our, human experience, I would say. And I love the contrast that you make in your books about, corporations and being authentic and in your latest book, a love story, an intensely personal memoir, you talk about obviously love, but how you met your wife, your spouse, and you're a very spiritual guy, and I like that. But right before we get into those books, though, give us an idea here of your background a little bit.
Well, let's see. I'll start with saying that I used to run a very large company, a Fortune 100 company, which we helped to build to 70,000 employees. And then I quit and I was teaching at university. I was teaching leadership because that's what I'd been doing for 14 years, but there were no books that I thought were appropriate for teaching, so I wrote my own. It became a bestseller, and I was starting to be asked by people, would you come and talk to us about the things you're writing about? And pretty soon that work grew so large that I couldn't do my teaching. So I became a full-time consultant. And since that time, I've written 16 books and work today with large organizations, mostly coaching, advising, helping them transform their cultures, and creating dreams for large organizations, cities, and states.
And okay, so you work for a big corporation. 70,000 employees. That's a lot. Okay. When you were growing up, because this show is all about following, living an inspired life, and you're obviously living an inspired life. Life kind of seems to have just took its, it shaped your life. I mean, you shaped your life based on your spirituality. Now, we're growing up. A lot of parents will say, hey, if you lead a creative life or life of an entrepreneur, that's dangerous. That's, you better be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. That's like the main thing, if you want to make a living. Did you have that kind of pressure growing up, or did you have, could you do whatever the heck you wanted?
Well, I think I could do what I wanted, but I think that I could spend a lot of time talking about the roadblocks, the difficulties, the challenges, my early life. But I soon learned that we write our own script, and we can blame everybody for everything, but in the end, that doesn't get us anywhere. So I decided I'd start to chart my own life, and I've been doing that ever since. And I live a great life. I live with very interesting people. We're doing work all over the world that has meaning and is making a difference in the world. And I spend half my life in Colorado, where I ski. I live on a ski mountain. And then the other half of my life in Ontario, where I spend the balance of the year. So it's a very charmed life in lots of ways, but it's a life I think I've helped to create.
Right. Okay. The spark, the flame, and the torch. Inspire yourself, inspire others, inspire the world. You're all about inspiration. I love in the book you make the difference between motivation and inspiration, but we're going to get to that. How did you come up with the book, and why did you write that book?
Well, there's two reasons for that, really. One is that I realized that we spend $170 billion a year on leadership development. There are 240,000 books on Amazon.com about leadership, and leadership is broken everywhere, whether it's Wall Street, politics, corporate America, education, healthcare, the Roman Catholic Church, the police. It doesn't matter where you look, it's broken everywhere. So with all this spending, all this education, all this effort, all these books, all the gurus, why do we keep doing the same thing when we are doing it so badly? So what I realized is that actually it's not leadership we're looking for. What we're really looking for is inspiration. We want to be inspired, and we want to be inspired by everything, not just our leaders, but by a flower or by God or by nature or by our friends or our spouses, our children, our coffee, our meals that we eat, the movies we watch, the music we listen to, everything we do in life we do because we want to be inspired by it, and we stop doing all those things when we're not inspired. So inspiration then is the key to everything else we do. So that's one reason. And the other was that I'd written 15 books or 14 books at that time about leadership. And I wanted to take the best things I'd written and make them better, and take the worst things I'd written and throw them away, and then add new things. And that became the spark, the flame, and the torch.
I hear you talk about, inspiration and being inspired by God or by a flower. Now, I can see, some of my ex-colleagues in the corporate world kind of smirk, kind of laughing. This guy's talking about, look, we got profits we got deadlines. I got to make money. I got to pay for my bills. I have pressure from my boss. When you talk to me about loving God and flowers, it's like, what would you say to them?
Well, all those things you talked about, the pressures, do you think you'd do them better if you were inspired?
Of course.
Okay,
well, obviously, yeah.
That's my case.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's pretty good. Okay. That's pretty good. You say that the system with all these books, leadership is broken. How is it broken?
Well, we teach leadership like engineering. We teach it as if it were a to-do list. So if you do these 10 things and go to this workshop and read this book, you'll be a great leader. If you learn how to lead millennials, if you learn how to lead women, if you learn how to lead minorities, if you learn how to lead in agriculture or whatever industry you're in, or finance, that's all specialized and vertical. It's just like engineering. But leadership isn't like that. None of us has ever been inspired by someone who thinks like that. We've been inspired by people who lift us up, people who make our hearts full, people who express love and service to us, people who want us to grow and be better, people who want to change the world, people who we admire. These are the things that lift us up and cause us to do remarkable things.
Right. In your book, on page 9, page 9, I folded okay, page 10. You're right. We reward the creation of wealth, but not stewardship. The outer, but not the inner. And there is a natural law that governs all this. We get the results we reward. Talk to us a little bit about that. What you mean by that?
Well, that's what we've been doing, isn't it? And I fear these days that we are not paying attention to the longer term things. So that in the corporate world in particular, we have quarterly earnings statements. So therefore, people do things that will get the quarterly earnings statements right. And once we get this quarter done, then we're now working on the next quarter. But we don't talk about the next 50 years for the environment, or whether or not we're inspiring people and making them feel whole, and a number of other things which actually can't be measured that way and can't be measured in those times. Mm-hmm. So in the end, it catches up with you.
Yeah. when you talk and when I read your book, I'm thinking back when I was, I was in the insurance business. I was a quote unquote financial advisor. And I don't think we're real financial advisors, with 2 months training, but that's another story. And it seems to me that the corporate world is a soulless world. And when you talk about inspiration, I tried to find the inspiration. It's almost like the environment or the tasks suck it out of you. And, how do you survive that? It's almost like, this is just my feeling. I think many people, they just are able to operate without that, without the kind of soul spark. You talk about the spark in your book, and it seems to me that, it becomes all about the ego and not finding the truth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it seems to me that there are certain people in the corporate world, not everybody, but that certain people, to succeed in the corporate world, you have to kind of accept the lie. Like, I don't really believe in what the company said. I know it's flawed, but I'm not going to contest it. I'm just going to swallow it and act as though, it was real. It was the truth. And I'm not going to challenge it.
No, but then if you're going to do that, and I know you don't mean you, but if one is going to do that, then you are being an inauthentic person.
Yeah.
And how does that feel? Do you want to live your life that way? Do you want to die saying I lived an inauthentic life? Is there nothing more than that to you? Mm-hmm. And so the book really talks about the spark. And one of the things two or three things we do in the spark. One is we create for ourselves a clear understanding of why we're here, a higher purpose. You don't get out of bed every morning to meet the quarterly statements. You get out of the bed every morning to do something remarkable on this planet to help make it better than it was when you got up this morning. Now, that may help you to achieve your quarterly targets. I'm not saying the quarterly targets are bad, but I'm saying there's bigger things to do in the world than that, just that. Now, understanding what we call destiny, character, and calling, so why you're here, how you're going to be while you're here, and what are you going to do with your gifts and talents, and how you're going to use them to serve the world, that is the beginning of the journey, because what we need to do when we inspire other people is, first of all, we need to fill up our own tank. We have to be inspired. That's a spark. Mm-hmm. And the spark consists of that, plus also identifying a dream for both the company you work for and for yourself. And thirdly, building inspiring relationships. And that's really what a love story book is about. Mm-hmm. But the spark really sets that up. Once you've filled your tank, now you're able to inspire others. And I'll tell you just what that means, the flame, the second part of the book. We did research to find out what people don't like about leaders. And this is what I think you were describing earlier. They don't like cowards. They don't like people who are phony. They don't like people who are selfish. They don't like liars. They don't like people who rule with fear. And they don't like idiots. Now, if we take those 6 words, or 6 things that people don't like, and simply say, okay, let's stop doing that, and let's do the opposite. Well, it turns out the opposite is courage, authenticity, service, truthfulness, love, and effectiveness. That spells an acronym of CASTLE, the CASTLE principles. Mm-hmm. If we live that way, we will inspire others. Therefore, the reason for this is that we love people who are courageous. We love people who are authentic. We love people who serve us and others. We love people who are loving. We love people who tell the truth. And we love people who are effective.
Right. Yeah, Cal, we're going to get to these principles. Okay. I like the story of corporation or movement. Talk to us about the exercise that you gave in your book. I think that's a very important exercise to do. It opened my mind a lot.
Well, we tend to think about the word corporation in the way you described earlier. So it's greedy, it's full of deadlines, it's large, it's impersonal, it's soulless. We have to go through the journey in order to get to do what we really want to do. It's not good for the environment. And, we go on and on when we talk about the corporation. Then we say, okay, what's a movement then? Well, a movement is about changing the world. It's about passion and vision. It's about seeing a great future. It's about being inspired. It's those kinds of things. So now the question becomes this. So which do you want to be? Do you want to be the first one, the corporation, or do you want to be a movement? Now, Southwest Airlines is a movement. Patagonia is a movement. Starbucks is a movement. They're not just running a corporation. They're changing the way corporations work and run and their rules in the world. You know, it's not an accident. The Starbucks was one of the first companies ever to provide healthcare benefits to minimum wage employees, part-time minimum wage employees. And when the recession hit, Howard Schultz, who's the CEO of Starbucks, was told by one of the board members that he should get rid of healthcare benefits because that would save a lot of money and therefore help the company survive. And he said, if you think that, you shouldn't be on the board. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference. And that's the difference, you know, when we go to shop. Do we shop at Starbucks or do we shop at Dunkin' Donuts or McDonald's? Because they all sell coffee too. But we make some choices and it depends on what inspires us.
Right. All right, once again, we're here with Lance Secretan. He's the author of The Spark, The Flame, and The Torch. Inspire yourself, inspire others, inspire the world. He's also the author of a love story and an intensely personal memoir. And that's a very spiritual book, an inspiring book, loving book. We're going to talk about this a little later. But right before continuing this conversation, folks, if you have a passion, you know, something fuels your curiosity. Well, on top of getting fascinating interviews, such as this one, straight to your inbox, when you subscribe to our free Creative Magic community, you will get super cool exclusive gifts in return, such as the ebook, Happiness Quotes by the Ambassador of Happiness herself, Maura Sweeney, one of our hosts, and also an exclusive conversation with two of my favorite people, Alex Okoroji and the blind blogger Max Ivy, another one of our hosts, as we talk about the influence of friends and college education on our lives, the competitiveness in a crowded field, the importance of business and financial education in arts and entrepreneurship, and more. And also, Alex has a special gift for you inside. I promise you will get inspired and entertained. Subscribe for free at frederickbuy.com. That's Frederick with a C, buy.com. Okay, you talk about the importance of passion. You say passion is the authentic guide for our choices. Do you tell us about the story from the 18-year-old Dustin Carter who has no legs and almost no arms?
Well, he's a wonderful example, and there are many others in the book too, of people who have what look like insurmountable odds. You know, there are, Evelyn Glennie is another example that I talk about in the book. Evelyn Glennie is a musician who was born with a hearing defect. She's clinically deaf, but she's one of the top percussionists in the world. And she plays hundreds of instruments. She has 3,000 or 4,000 instruments in her collection. She plays for world-class symphony orchestras and so on. And yet she has something which you would think would get in your way if you wanted to be a musician. And Dustin Carter is the same. And Dustin Carter is a wrestler, a wonderful and champion wrestler, but he's wrestling basically with no arms or legs and using his body in innovative ways, which is overwhelming full-bodied athletes. Now we have the choice, don't we? We can whine and complain about something, or we can say, hey, I've been dealt a hand, I've got to play it.
Right. And in the book, I love what you wrote about him. He says, and I'm paraphrasing because I lost the page, but, you know, he doesn't want people to feel sorry for himself because he can do everything himself. You know, he can live on his own. And I think it's something sometimes that we forget when we see, I notice that in myself, like when we see somebody who's quote unquote handicapped, that person does not want to be pitied. In fact, many times they feel they have nothing to be pitied for. Does that make sense?
Right. And sometimes they feel in some ways advantaged because for instance, Dustin Carter is able to open pop cans. He's able to put his clothes on and take them off. I've been on an airplane with a similar athlete and watched them put their carry-on bag into the overhead compartment with no legs and arms.
Really? Wow.
I mean, basically, you have the whole plane cheering because it's an amazing thing to watch. And nobody's whining or complaining.
Yeah. All right. In your, on page 59, you talk about the calling, and I love this quote. Your profession is not what brings home your paycheck. Your profession is what you were put on earth to do. Why is it so hard for us to understand that? With such passion and such intensity that it becomes spiritual in calling. And you're right, many people work in order to make a living. Only an inspired minority are living fully because they love their work. How do we find our calling? How do we find it? So many people, and I speak to so many people, what's my calling? What am I meant to do on this earth? And you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
It just seems to me that we're in a crisis right now, this era.
Yes.
We want to find out what our calling is. How do we find it?
Well, I think we have to, earlier in the book, I talk about listening to the social self and the essential self. The social self is really the ego and the personality. The social self is always looking outside for validation. Will I be loved? Will I be successful? Will I make enough money? Will I enjoy the job? Will people like me? This is the social self, and we pretty well live most of our lives listening to the social self. And that's why we become lawyer, engineer, or doctor. Whereas if we listen to the essential self, that's the soul. What brings me joy? What do I love? Where do I want to serve? If you ask those kinds of questions, it points you in a new direction. It's very interesting that I could do all kinds of things. I left the company I was running when I was at the peak of my career, but I was just tired and bored, and I didn't want to do it anymore. But I think, honestly, today, if I'd stayed there, I might have been a billionaire. A billionaire, not a millionaire, billionaire. But I would have been so unhappy. And today, I'm not anything close to being in any kind of heir, but I'm happy.
Mm-hmm. Right. Speaking of money, you say passion precedes profit. You talk about Sandra Boynton and her Hippo Birdie 2 Ooze cards.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Talk to us a little bit about her.
Well, she's a wonderful artist that creates these whimsical cards. And this is her passion. So and it always works this way, if you take your passion and turn it into a vocation, you'll get rich. This is how athletes are, for example. Athletes who love to play tennis or football or baseball, if they do it well and they love it, they'll get rich. If they become accountants and don't love it, they won't get rich. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. I understand, but it's some athletes, they get injured. Okay, you might have the quote unquote passion, but we know these athletes, there's only one winner. There's only one, do you think if you follow your passion, you automatically become successful, I mean, you'll be rich. For me, there are a lot of people who do follow their passion and are not rich.
Depends, doesn't it, on how you're measuring. So the social self measures by success and the essential self measures by joy. So which one are you going to measure? If you measure by success, then how many cars do you have? How big is your house? And how many vacation properties do you have? And how much money you make and so on.
Right.
If your barometer is more by joy, how many people do you touch? How many people love you? How much of a difference are you making in the world? Will people miss you when you're gone?
Yeah. These are important questions. And I think, do you think that these people, that we said or talked about earlier, they seem to be able to suppress those deep existential questions for the money or to climb that ladder and to be tough and to be there. Do you think that deep down inside they do ask themselves those questions?
No, I don't think they do. I think that what they do is they say, when I have enough money, I will do what I love, which means, the horizon never gets close to you. The horizon is always distant. And so you're always chasing that all your life.
Wow, that's interesting. That's the first one. Oh, okay. That's pretty cool. That's very cool. Okay. Finding the music as well as the words for the one dream. Okay. You're right. A dream cannot simply be pulled out of thin air or the gut of an individual or group of executives. A dream must rest on the structure of a rigorous platform. Important. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, one of the things that we need to do when we create a dream is make sure that we understand this is not a mission statement. Most companies have a mission statement.
It's empty.
Mission statements are boring and mundane. And basically, and I've actually done this, I can take 3 or 4 mission statements, shuffle them up, give them back to their original owners in random form, and they don't know if they've got their own back or not.
Yeah.
Because they say the same thing, basically. You just change, cheese factory to hospital, and you've got a mission statement. And what we're looking for here is something much, much, much more powerful, something that raises us, something that gets us out of bed. I go to work for a company that has a dream. Now, how do you get there? Well, it has to be built on something that's real. It can't just fancy something out of the air. So we have a whole rigorous process where we identify something we call permission space. What is the permission that you will be given by all of the constituents that you depend on? So the media, unions, regulators, whoever that might be. And what permission will they give you so that you can use that energy to achieve the dream?
Yeah. I see that. Yeah. What do you think is the breakthrough as a society that we went from being paychecks addicts to what's my purpose in life? What happened, you think, to our society? Why do you think that's how we think now? And because it's everywhere right now.
Yeah. You think that the society only thinks about the paycheck now?
No, I think that they used to think about the paycheck back, the other generations. But now it's like, what's my purpose? It seems that that's the biggest question. Like, why do you think the shift happened? And when was that breakthrough? Like, what happened to us as a society?
Well, I'm not sure I see that.
No, you don't. What do you see?
No, I see, in our election last night, I think, underpins, there's very much what's going on in the economy? Where's my job going? How am I going to be protected? How am I going to be safe? It's all about the short-term me, self-centered approach. And now I'm not saying that about Trump only. I think that was true also of Clinton. But the election, if you'll notice, was never about long-term things. How can we make this a more just society? How can we treat our environment more fairly? How can we be friends with people overseas in every jurisdiction or every belief? We never talked about that.
You're right, but I also think that there are more spiritually inclined people nowadays, and you can tell by the all the nonfiction self-help books and they exploded, right? But let's say 30 years ago, it wasn't that way. It wasn't like that.
I think you're drawing them to you, Frederick. I think you come from a place where people are gravitating to you, so you see a lot of them. But I think if you walked into IBM or some of the big consulting firms, McKinsey and so on, Monsanto, I don't think you'd see that at all.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. The first time someone tells me that might be true. I'm going to look into that. That's interesting. Okay. You talk about identifying, realizing, and sustaining the one dream. And, there are 3 phases. Identify, realizing, and sustaining. It's really funny because you're right. I estimate that 10% of the energy and time is required to successfully complete phase 1, 20% to complete phase 2, and 70% to complete phase 3. Really?
Yep. The hardest thing to do is to sustain a dream.
To realize it.
Well, realizing the dream is actually easier than sustaining it. If you have a dream, for example, I dream that I want to walk El Camino, or I want to walk from one side of the country to another. Well, you plan that, don't you? And then you execute that. But then sustaining it, like doing it over and over again and always doing that, that's a very difficult thing to do. So if you want to be, for example, the best company in the world in a particular field, you can get there, but can you stay there?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's when the paranoia, this is just my experience. Oftentimes we think we're going to get that money and then we'll be okay. But then we get that money. It's almost like then we're afraid to lose it. And the more you have, the more you're afraid to lose. So it never ends. That kind of fear-based mentality. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. That's why the horizon never comes.
Yeah. Yeah. When you have nothing, you go, well, if I have something, I'll be fine. And you're afraid because I got to pay the bills, but now you're able to pay the bills. But now if I lose my job and if that person takes my job, then what happens to me? It's like, it's a never ending cycle. It's unbelievable.
If you think that way.
Yeah, of course. Well, yeah. If you think that way, of course. All right. Once again, we're here with Lance Secretan, is the author of The Spark, the Flame, and the Torch. Inspire yourself, inspire others, inspire the world. He's also the author of A Love Story, an intensely personal memoir. Fascinating conversation. And guys, right before continuing this conversation, if you are an Amazon shopper, when you use our Amazon links at fredericbuy.com, Amazon kicks back a few bucks to the show and helps cover production costs. No additional cost to you. No hidden fees, no BS, no nothing. So if you like what you hear, you can help by going over to fredericbuy.com, Frederick the C, buylikebabai.com. Click the Amazon link in the sidebar for all your online shopping, including that book. It's that simple, and bookmark it to find it easier. Okay, important subject in your book. You're right. It amazes me that so many skiers remain average and mediocre year after year when they could do much better. And I am equally amazed to see the same thing happen again and again in organizations. All this suggests that we are losing the strength of our courage muscles, because more than anything else, change requires courage. And, you know, I see that I can think of entrepreneurs. It's not just like institutions. It just seems to me that certain people reach a level and it's like, to them, I can see like mentally, spiritually, just it ends there. Like all of a sudden they close their eyes, close their ears. I just want to do the same thing the way I've been doing it. I don't want to change anymore. Why does it require so much courage? And I mean, what do you mean by change requires courage, first of all?
Well, it requires courage because it takes courage to say, I'm wrong. I need help.
Oh, yeah.
I'm out of date. I need to change my values or my beliefs. I need to learn. I need to grow. I'm not good enough right now for the tasks that I have on hand, and I need to grow my skills. It takes courage to do that. It takes courage to say, everything I've believed up to now is probably not going to help me get to where I need to be in the future. Therefore, I need to learn new things to do that. And will you please help me? That takes courage. And all of those things have to happen before we do anything. I can tell you that we should be loving to our colleagues at work, but that's going to take courage. Who's going to go first and say, I love you at work? So, you know what I'm saying? So it takes courage. And so courage is the beginning of everything. It takes courage to change our beliefs and the way we've been doing things. It takes courage to say to people in the company, we're going to start telling the truth. We're going to be authentic. We're going to serve others. We're going to create a loving culture. It's going to be inspiring. That's going to take courage.
Yeah, but you're going to be confronted with, it's almost like if you tell the truth, you're going to lose a lot of money. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that it seems to me that that's the mentality. Like, I don't know.
I've argued in the book that actually it's the opposite.
No, I know.
Yeah, we could actually make more money by telling the truth than any other single action in the corporate world.
Right.
Just imagine how many people are there in the world that are trying to catch people who tell lies about their taxes.
Yeah.
How many people? It must be millions.
Yeah.
If we told the truth, all those millions of people would be able to redirect all their energy into useful places. How many people in large companies are in the risk department. I work with corporations that have 200 lawyers working for them inside the company. Then they have a whole bunch of legal firms outside the company that are on retainer. They also have compliance and risk management and a whole bunch of other things. And there are people checking budgets and expense reports to make sure they're not falsified. And then there are other people that are checking all the people coming into the building to make sure they're safe and secure and so on. Just imagine if we didn't do all this.
Yeah. You're right. You're right about capitalism that serves. I like that. A relevant question to ask is serving others and the greater good compatible with serving the interest of shareholders, and are there necessary trade-offs? Well, it comes down to what you just said, but it's just, to me, it's like shareholders and corporations. It's like it's just a fine line, and it's a pressure cooker. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. I think that depends again on what kind of leader you are and what kind of sacrifices you make. We have cases like Wells Fargo and Volkswagen, where there are terrible things that those companies have done. And they, of course, will pay the price for it. The CEO of Wells Fargo is gone now. And there's an inquiry into the CEO of Volkswagen also. So in the end, hopefully these things come right. But it's amazing that companies that size would create a master plan to cheat their customers.
Mm-hmm. You're right, serving the souls of employees. And talk about the case study of Stephen T. Bigari, the former McDonald's franchise in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Right.
That's fascinating. A 300% turnover. I didn't even know that in the fast food
that's
industry.
Pretty common in that business.
I'm sorry?
That's pretty common in that business.
Yeah, that's what you wrote. And what happened? What did he do?
Well, he looked after his employees, and in particular, he looked after one who was having a struggle trying to get to work. So he helped him finance a used car, and that enabled him to do his job. But more than that, it inspired him. And most employers wouldn't do that. So the employee feels, I really want to work here because this is a man who looks after me. This is a man who cares enough for me to do this. Now, it's self-serving because it lowers his staff turnover and hopefully he doesn't lose an employee. So everybody's winning.
Yeah.
And what's the problem with that?
Yeah. Inspiration versus motivation. Talk to us a little bit about that. What's the difference? I think it's important.
Yeah, there's the whole core to the place we're in and the place we want to go to. Because here's what's happened. Way back 120 years ago, Pavlov discovered, and B.F. Skinner discovered, that if you ring a bell, a dog will salivate. And if you want to make a donkey go faster, you kick its ass. And if you want to, or you put a carrot in front of it. And so we learned punishment and reward. Now, if you just scale that up to human behavior today, it's exactly the same. It's a fear-based system, a reward and punishment system. And, if I'm the sales manager and you're one of my salespeople and I have 20 more of them, I'm going to give everybody a quota. I'm going to give them a bonus if they achieve the quota. But it's not about them. It's about me. Because if everybody meets their sales quotas, then I get to meet my targets. Mm. So it's all about me. It's about fear. It's about manipulating the behavior of others. It's about getting the salesman to salivate. We haven't learned anything at all. That's called motivation. And, punishment and reward is exactly how we do everything now. So that's leadership theory. It's human resource policy. But think of it. It's religion. Join my religion or you go to hell. It's academia. Pass my exam or I'll fail you. It's marketing. Buy my product or you'll be ugly. It's healthcare. Follow this protocol or you'll die. It's the media. It's the entertainment world. It's every field you can think of. This is the way we are. Look at our political campaign. Vote for me or the bad guys will get you. It's all about motivation. Now, inspiration is a totally different idea. It's actually almost the opposite because motivation is about me, whereas inspiration is about you. Inspiration, if you've had a person in your life who's changed your life, who mentored you, who coached you, who made a difference in your life, this was a person who inspired you. And it was an act of service from them to you. It was an act of love from them to you. They didn't need anything from you. They wanted you to succeed and grow and be fulfilled. And so the difference is significant. motivation is lighting a fire under someone, and inspiration is lighting a fire within someone.
Wow. That's powerful. That's powerful. All right, we got a few minutes left. We're at about 9 minutes left. Your latest book is a love story, an intensely personal memoir. You're a poet.
I didn't know it.
All right, that book, spiritual. It's all about how you met it's about love. How did you come up with that book?
Well, I was married to a magnificent woman, and she passed away a little over 2 years ago. And over the years, it broke my heart. We had a magnificent marriage. I loved her and love her to this day with all my heart. Over the years, I'd written a lot of poetry for her. And I decided I wanted to take that poetry and see if it had any merit at all, because I'd never shared it in the outside world. It was very private. Mm-hmm. And then I decided I'd write a story about our love journey, because we had talked together about the possibility of writing a book about relationships and about inspiring relationships. And we had the key points written down, but we never got any further than that. But when we walked into a room together, people knew that there was a special energy we had, that we had a remarkable relationship. So I wrote the book. And there's a very interesting thing that's happened from that book that brings us back to where our conversation was before. So I'm thinking, what are the things we teach people in leadership? And we teach them the things we talked about earlier, leadership competencies and so on. But you would never, if we look at the qualities of a good leader, we would say, oh, well, you need strategic vision, you need good decision making, you need to be able to pick good team members, you need to manage and lead those team members, you need to build teams, you need to have a strategy and execute it, and so on. Those are the things we say about a leader. Mm-hmm. Now, if we were to say, well, what's the secret of a great marriage? Well, we'd say things like, well, integrity, compassion, trust, love, listening, communication, humor. And then we'd say, well, then why wouldn't we do those things in the corporate world? What's the difference? How is it we've come up with a formula for leadership and a different formula altogether for a romantic relationship? Because actually we should be doing the same thing everywhere. Because if we did, we'd have inspiring organizations. So there we are, you see. We're at the place where we say that book, that story, a love story, is about the most inspiring relationship I've had in my life. But everything is about an inspiring relationship. And if you remember, that's where we started this conversation.
Right. Was she a spiritual person?
Yes, very.
Mm-hmm. And how did you meet her?
She was skiing down a ski hill near where I live, and she fell over, and I picked her up.
Okay.
And that has a double meaning.
What was the double meaning?
It's a double meaning. I picked her up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I see. I understand. Who do you have? Do you have like favorite poets?
Oh, favorite poet. I love Longfellow. I love some of the earlier poets, and I love a lot of them. I mean, there's so many of them, but I love some of the earlier poets like Longfellow and Wordsworth and so on. More modern poets, I find a little more difficult to read, and some of my own writing is a bit like that, I suppose. But poetry has never been a really big thing for me to read, but I do enjoy it, I must say. And I've certainly done quite a lot of writing poetry since that book was published, too.
You write that poetry is a window into the soul. Poetry is emotion recalled with serenity. What is your creative process? Do you go into the woods? Do you meditate? Do you pet your animals?
Lots of things, Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I have to get out of bed and write because it's making my brain crazy. There are other times when I see something so beautiful, or I hear a piece of music, or I'm somewhere that's magnificent, like the mountains, and I'm inspired, and I want to write about it because it's so beautiful.
What is the number one habit that fuels a creative life?
That's a great question. I think possibly for me, the most important thing is meditation. Meditation is kind of like my bottle of medicine that is a cure for everything. If I'm unhappy, I meditate. If I'm stressed, I meditate. If I don't know what to do, I meditate. If I'm not feeling well, I meditate. Meditation is the most powerful thing that we can do to sharpen our senses, to make our brains more active, to make our bodies more healthy, to make us more philosophical about the world, to be more loving and compassionate, and to make a difference.
The life of an artist, the life of a writer, of an entrepreneur, even of a speaker, it's a life of uncertainty. Because sometimes you don't know where your next paycheck is going to come from, and that stresses a lot of people. Obviously fear. How do you remain calm in uncertainty?
Well, I know it's going to work out well, and I'm very, very open. This is where the first of the castle principles is so important, courage. I'm very open to asking for help. If things are not looking good, I will ask for help from friends, from customers, from all kinds of people. I may be calling you and saying, Frederick, I need your help.
And that takes humility. A lot of people have a hard time asking for help.
Because you need courage.
Yeah.
You have to say to the ego, and this takes courage, stand aside for a minute. I have something I need to do for my soul.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If you were stuck on an island with no one else, $500 in your pocket, a laptop, an internet connection, what would you do the next 7 days?
Probably turn the laptop off.
Okay.
$500, I don't need it on an island if there's nowhere to spend money. Mm-hmm. So I will try and see if there's anyone else to talk to. And I guess the first thing I'm going to do is just sit and enjoy where I am for now. And then as I get hungry, I'll have to start thinking about that.
Okay. So you'd be in the moment, in other words. That's what I'm hearing. Oh,
and that's the name of another book I wrote. It's called Living the Moment.
Awesome. All right. His name is Lance Secretan. He's the author of The Spark, the Flame, and the Torch. Inspire yourself, inspire others, inspire the world. And also the book, A Love Story, an intensely personal memoir. Lance, where can we find you and where can we buy your books?
Well, you can buy the books. I hope they'll be able to buy the book through your website so that you get some funding for your own website. But of course, they come from Amazon.com and Amazon.ca and Amazon.de and so on. And of course, our website, which is www.secretan, SECRETAN.com.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Lance. Inspiring. I love it. Thank you.
I love it too. Thank you, Fred. It's been great to be with you.
Alrighty, thank you guys for listening to this amazing conversation, and thank you again, Lance, for appearing here on the Frederick Bai Show. Really had a great time. Guys, when you pick up his book from our website at frederickbai.com, Amazon kicks back a few bucks to the show. It helps cover production costs. No additional cost to you. No hidden fees. No nothing. So if you like the show, go to frederickbai.com. Frederick with a C. buylikebabai.com and click the link to his book. It is really that simple. Click the Frederick Bai Show and you will see his name, Lance Secretan. Click there and then the book will be there. Or just go to our Amazon links on the sidebar. Also, we would like to thank those who pledged to our Patreon page. You are really helpful to the show and we are grateful for your help. In case you're wondering, Patreon is a simple way for you to contribute to the network every single month and get super cool exclusive gifts. In return, I promise you will love the perks. Our Patreon page is at frederickbai.com. Frederick with a C, buylikebabai.com, and click Patreon in the header. The money is used to cover our production costs and editing time. You can contribute for as low as $1. Also, guys, if you are a podcaster, if you are somebody who's looking to expand your listenership, Creative Magic Network is looking for new podcasters. We're looking for entrepreneurial, positively oriented people who are looking to expand their brand. The network is still in its infancy, and that's why our rates are very low at the moment. And they'll take advantage. Eventually, they will increase. We are on multiple platforms right now. And, it's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool to be able to do this. So you can go to frederickbai.com, Frederick with a C, buylikebabai.com, and click on Become a Host in the header. And check us out. reach us out and we'll see if we're a good fit. Also, the Creative Magic Store is open, alive, and well, 24/7. T-shirts, mugs, DVDs, recommended reading, a bunch of stuff is out there. Just check it out. Creative Magic Store. It's up and running, and this podcast is free every time you download it. Anywhere, any platform of your choice. So iTunes, Stitcher, please go over there, subscribe. It is listener supported. Tell a friend, leave a review. It really helps brother out. Reviews are really, really helpful. And that's about it for me. I'm going to go and bathe my toddler, not my toddler, but my infant, my baby, my 1 month old and a half baby. 1 month and a half old baby. Okay, whatever you understand. And until next time, guys, stay safe and don't forget, live with purpose, passion, fire, and love. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Frederick Bai Show. For more information, go to frederickbai.com. That's Frederick with a C, Bai like bye-bye.com.